Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we are on Module 3, Lesson 11, and we are continuing to multiply fractions, but we are going to be also kind of understanding what they mean and doing some more complicated problems. So my first two problems that I'm going to do is asking me to compare. So the directions aren't on here, but they're asking me to compare less than, greater than, or equals to. So what do I see here? Well, I could just multiply straight across, but watch what's going to happen when I do that. 4 times 5 is 20, and 9 times 6 is 54. 5 times 1 is 5, and 6 times 2 is 12. They're both less than 1 fractions, so that doesn't help me that much. So there's a more simple way I could do this. I can see what do they have in common. So they both have a 5, 6 in common. So I can look at the other factor. Well, 4/9 is smaller than 1/2. So I know that since 1/2 is greater, that this entire equation or expression would be greater. Okay, so let's look down here. 4/5 times 16 is greater than, less than, or equal to 16 times 3/4. Well, what do they have in common? They both have that in common. And then when I look at these are very close, but I know that 4/5 is larger. I can sometimes use money to help me. 4/5 of a dollar would be 80 cents, and 3/4 of a dollar would be 75 cents. So I know that since this one is greater, that whole expression is going to be greater. Okay, so let's try 2 together. So if we come over here, what do we see? They both have a 3 as a factor. Excuse me. And then this one has a 5/4 and this one has a 9/10. Well, 5/4 is a greater than 1 fraction and 9/10 is a less than 1 fraction. So this one is definitely greater, which will mean that entire expression is greater. Okay, over here it's a little weird because they both have a 2/5 in common and this one has nothing, has no other factor, where this one has a factor. But if this one has a factor, let's see, this is greater than 1. Well, I know if I multiply something by 1, it doesn't change its value. So we can just say that's being multiplied by 1. Well, since 5/4 is greater than 1, that is greater. Okay, let's look down here. This has a whole new set of directions. This says, write a whole number in each box to make a true number sentence. So this is a little weird what they're doing here. This equation or expression says blank over 5. So they want a fraction times 27 is less than 27. So they want a fraction that will make multiplying it by 27 less than 27. So I think when we look at that, we're going to kind of solve the middle when I think about that. Because what do I know? Well, I know that 1 times 27 is going to equal 27. So if I want this part of the equation to be less than 27, I'm going to need to multiply 27 by something smaller than 1. So what could I put here that's going to make this fraction less than 1? Well, I could put a 4 because 4/5 is less than 1. We could have also put a 3 because 3/5 is less than 1. We could have even put a 2 because 2/5 is less than 1, or a 1. So any fraction that would have made this less than 1 is going to make multiplying it by 27 less. So now down here, what times 27 is going to equal 27? Well, we already said it has to be 1. 1 times 27 equals 27. So how could we write that as a fraction with a denominator of 5? Well, 5 over 5 is the same as 1. Okay, so now they want us to make a fraction that when I multiply it by 27, my whole answer is greater than 27. Well, that means I need this fraction to be worth more than 27. I'm sorry, more than 1. So we could put a 6 because 6/5 is greater than 1. We could have also put a 600 because that's definitely greater than 1. We could have put any digit here or number here that's larger than 5. Okay, let's look at the back. We're going to move on to some word problems. So I'm going to do the first one for you. So this says, Blake has 3 feet of ribbon. He uses 3/4 of the ribbon for a project. He gives his friends 1/2 of the remaining ribbon. What fraction of the ribbon does Blake give to his friend? Okay, so what this is saying is he's using 3/4 of the 3 feet of ribbon. That's what he's going to use. Well, remember, of means multiplication. So he's using 3/4 of 3. But I have to multiply a fraction by a fraction. So he's using 9/4, which is the same as 1 and 1/4. I'm sorry, 2 and 1/4. That's what he was using. That's what he was using. So he was using 3/4 of the 3 feet of ribbon. Okay, so now what do we have there? Well, I might even draw this just to show you. So he had 3 feet of ribbon. We could draw it as a picture like this. And he used 3/4. So I'm going to divide it into fourths. And he used 3 of those fourths, 3 of those fourths, 3 of those fourths. So he did. He used 9/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they're each a fourth big. So that's how much he used. Okay, so now they said, though, he gives his friend half of what's left. So he's going to give his friend half of what is left. Well, what's left? 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So he's going to give his friend half of the 3/4 that's left. Well, remember, of means multiplication. So I'm thinking he's going to give his friend 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 times 4 is 8. I'm thinking he's giving his friend 3/8. But let's see if we could draw this as well. So he's going to give his friend half of that piece. But since I cut this one, I have to cut all of them. Okay, so he's going to give his friend this piece. That's the piece his friend gets. He's going to give his friend half of this one. But since I have to cut all of them. And then he's going to give his friend half of that piece that's left. But then we had to cut all of them. So did he give his friend 1, 2, 3 pieces? Yes. Are those pieces an eighth big? Yes. So that is what he gave his friend, 3/8. Okay, let's look at our next one. We're going to do this one together. So this one says, Mrs. Chan has 4 gallons of paint. She uses 1/3 of it to paint her bedroom. She uses 3/4 of the remaining paint for her living room. What fraction of the paint does Mrs. Chan use for her living room? Okay, so what do we have here? She's going to use 1/3 of the paint, which is 4 gallons, and that's what she's going to use to paint her bedroom. So we know that of is the same as multiplication, and we need to turn that to a fraction. So how much paint is she using on her bedroom? Well, 1 times 4 is 4, and 3 times 1 is 3. So that is a greater than 1 fraction. And many of you might be able to just put it as a proper fraction like that. That is what she is using on her bedroom. Okay, and we could have drawn this as a picture too. So let's actually draw this. She has 4 gallons of paint. And she's going to use 1/3 of each one for her bedroom. So what did she use? She used this for her bedroom, this for her bedroom, this for her bedroom, and that for her bedroom. So she used 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're each 1/3 big for her bedroom. Okay, so what does the problem now say? She's going to use 3/4 of the remaining paint for her living room. So she's going to use 3/4 of what's left or remaining for her living room. So how much is left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She has 8 pieces and they're each 1/3 big left. That's how much she has left. Okay, so let's see. Of means times. We might want to, ladies and gentlemen, for this problem, make our problem simpler. So 3 and 3, we can say the GCF of both of those is going to be 1. And for 8 and 4, we could say that 4 can fit into 4 once and 4 can fit into that. So what do we have then? We have 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 1 is 1. So I'm getting our answer to be 2. She uses 2 entire gallons of paint. Well, let's see if we could get the same picture doing our picture. So she's going to take each piece that's left and she's going to cut it into 4ths. She's going to take each piece that's left and cut it into 4ths, but then she also had to cut that. And what is she going to use? She's going to use 3 out of each of the 4 pieces. So that's what she's going to use from that gallon. Okay, from this one, she's going to take each piece that she had left and cut it into 4. Excuse me, and she's going to use 3 out of those 4 pieces, 3 out of those 4 pieces, and we're going to do that for each one. So she's going to use out of that 1 piece that was left, 3 out of the 4. This 1 piece, 3 out of the 4. So those are the pieces she used for her living room. So how many pieces did she use? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. She used 6 here, 6 here, and 6 here. So she used 24 pieces. And how big was each piece? Well, each piece was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Each piece was 1/12 big. So 24/12 is 2. So our answer would be 2. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have your homework attached. Have a great night. Good night.